Hello, this is Dr. Whiting, and today I am very pleased to announce that finally mainstream medicine and mainstream media has acknowledged an epidemic that we here at the Institute of Nutritional Science have been working with worldwide for over 26 years. And that issue is yeast overgrowth or systemic Candida. Just recently, on the Dr. Oz show, he featured a segment on yeast overgrowth. This is one of the very first times mainstream media or mainstream medicine has even begun to acknowledge that this condition exists. And this is really important because the more we can make people aware of how common yeast overgrowth is and how serious the problem can be, the better we'll be able to manage it, the better we'll be able to help people eliminate this problem and get on with their life. You see, systemic yeast overgrowth has a wide variety of symptoms, and we have generated many videos on our YouTube channel and on our websites for you to get information, get education about yeast overgrowth, systemic Candida, and how to eliminate it once and for all. But the importance with this show was that it was the first step in reaching the mainstream media population of the U.S. And that Dr. Oz and his staff should be commended for. That having been said, there were, as good as the show was, there was a few points that they didn't include, so it was only part of the story. For example, they were talking about the connection with diet, and they implied that the junk food diet, the high sugar, high carbohydrate diet that most of us consume contributes to yeast overgrowth. This in fact is not the case. Once you have a yeast overgrowth situation, it is possible to make the symptoms worse by consuming high sugar or high starchy type foods. But these foods will not in any way cause a systemic yeast overgrowth. Diet has never caused it. Diet alone will not cure the problem or eliminate the problem. If diet was at the root of this problem, everybody in this country would probably have a systemic yeast overgrowth problem because most of us consume the standard highly refined carbohydrate diet. Next, he talked about a way of determining whether you have a yeast overgrowth or not, and that's what is commonly referred to as the spit test. You take a glass of water and you spit in it in the morning especially, and if the saliva floats, you're all right, and if it sinks to the bottom in strings like a jellyfish, then it is highly indicative of the fact that you may have systemic yeast. In and of itself, that's fine. However, keep in mind that we've been dealing with systemic yeast on thousands and thousands of individuals over the past 26 years. And in that time, we have found that the saliva test oftentimes produces a false positive, and worse, oftentimes a false negative reaction, because really the test depends on the viscosity of your saliva, and there are many factors other than yeast overgrowth that can affect that viscosity or that density. But it's a good place to start. So after you do the spit test, then you should go to our website, our research website, and take our symptom test, because that will refine even more whether A, you have a systemic yeast problem, and B, how severe it is, and lastly, C, how long we might expect it to take to get it under control for you. You can find that self-evaluation test at our research website at www.candidaclinic, CANDIDACLINIC.org. CandidaClinic.org. Once you take that test, you should have a pretty good idea between that and the saliva test whether you are in issue with a yeast situation. As the show progressed, they sort of implied that changing your diet and taking a good probiotic can often eliminate this problem. That is true if your yeast problem is localized to your gastrointestinal and genitourinary tract regions. Changes in diet, changes in pH, strong probiotics, and so forth can oftentimes go far to eliminating a localized yeast problem. However, what we have found out the hard way is that if your yeast overgrowth is systemic, in other words, it has entered the bloodstream, it is now throughout your body, it is producing symptoms throughout your body, it's showing a coated tongue, fuzzy thinking, poor memory, gastrointestinal distress, jock itch in men, vaginal itching in women, toenail and fingernail fungus. These are just some of the issues that would indicate a systemic yeast problem. And once the yeast has become systemic, the standard way of dealing with these problems becomes less and less effective. So in other words, dietary changes, high amounts of probiotics may make a temporary difference, but as soon as you stop them, the problem will return. And that's simply because you cannot reach the outlying sources and soft tissues of the body with these methods. It's just physiologically impossible. That's why we developed a program here at our research institute that we have been using successfully for almost 3 decades, which includes a supplement that raises the oxygen level of your bloodstream, and as such raises the oxygen level to all the cells of your body from head to toe. Now, Candida albicans, like many other low-grade organisms, such as yeasts, molds, fungus, and some parasites, are what we call anaerobic organisms. And anaerobic organisms cannot survive in an oxygen-rich environment. So by raising the oxygen level of your system, we can shut down the metabolism of the Candida or yeast organism, no matter where it is in your body, and this allows your body to detoxify and eliminate the organism safely and effectively. If you'd like to have more information about how our program works and the safety and effectiveness of it, we invite you to visit our research website at www.candidaclinic.org. You can also call our research center at 1-888-454-8464. And in closing, I'd like to also invite you to visit our other YouTube videos on Candida and systemic yeast overgrowth. They will give you a clear and concise background as to how this problem occurs, what this problem is, and most importantly, how to maintain it and control it, and yes, even eliminate it. We'd like to thank Dr. Oz for taking an enormous step, really, in stepping out of the proverbial boundaries of organized medicine and at least acknowledging that this condition not only exists, but it is of true epidemic proportions. His work and our research and our work at our center combined may be able to help thousands and thousands of people to eliminate this chronic condition that compromises the quality and quantity of their life. This is Dr. Whiting, and I'm thanking you very much for taking out the time to listen today.